Good evening, everybody. So, knock down or get up there. So, I've had a pretty good day so far. Joe, you've had a good day so far?
Yeah, it's been really busy. I've been working on some great projects, actually. So, I loved it. Really nice to be here and talking to you this evening, though. And I'm quite excited about tonight because we've got Beverly coming on later, haven't we?
I believe we have. And are you feeling resilient?
I am feeling super resilient. I think resilient is something we've all been building, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great topic. I think when we were talking about it earlier on, when we were deciding what we're going to talk about, it's quite timely that business resilience is going to be the topic of tonight. And it's interesting when we were talking about this earlier on, about how we both agreed that it's not just a mindset, what goes on between the ears type situation, but it's actually more practical. And I love practical, and I know you love practical as well. So I think it's going to be a great conversation tonight. Some great things to talk about. For those of you, by the way, who may be stumbling upon this, I'm not sitting here live. Me and Joe will obviously forgive you greatly. Hashtag replay if you've got any comments to add to the stream, if you would like us to pick up on anything that you've said, contribute to the conversation, join in the dialogue, ask questions, then we'd love to actually hear what they are. If you're here live, fantastic. Thank you very much for giving up some of your Tuesday evening. Hopefully you are going to get some great value from our conversation tonight. So I suppose I've just outlined some basic things here. We've got a wonderful guest coming on, one of the cohorts of the Business Growth Club. I've got an idea and feeling for what business resilience is. Joe, what's your thoughts about what business resilience represents?
Yeah, when you said actually about it not just being all about mindset, it's about the practical things. I so agree with that. And I think if you get the practical things in place, they actually relax your mind, clear your mind, and you feel good about your business because you know you've put everything in place and you therefore need, to worry less. So resilience is a really important thing. I mean, now more so than ever, and with all the uncertainty and everything that's going on. But there are some really simple, straightforward things that people can do. And it just really means fronting up to any risk that there might be, thinking about, if you think a risk might happen, then plan in case it does. And then you'll feel, well, at least I've got the plans in place. And I just think, we can't plan for everything. We can't cater for everything, but we can certainly get ourselves in as good a place as possible. And I think that's what resilience is all about. It's bottom line, really.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that you say about the planning, and I always think about that Mike Tyson quote that everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, which I thought was a brilliant quote in terms of when things actually hit you in the face and circumstances go wrong. And it was interesting when I was doing a bit of prep myself. I do actually prep for this occasionally. And I was looking at the idea of business resilience, that it's saying that nobody could have actually predicted the pandemic. Nobody could have predicted the extent of the pandemic. But business resilience isn't about predicting things, because we could have said it could have been something environmental that could have happened. It could have been some trade sanctions. It could have been something else that people might have been predicting. So it's not about predicting what's going to happen. It's about making sure you're business ready. And I think you're right in terms of that anxiety. I mean, I meet lots of clients, as you do, that when they don't actually know what's going on, that uncertainty, they haven't got systems in place, they haven't got processes, they haven't got the right leadership mentality, anxiety creeps into that. And for this, it's about very much trying to relieve that pressure and actually making sure that's clear, but it connects with these sort of the practical stuff.
Yeah, it's about scenario planning, isn't it? It's about thinking which direction you think things might go in or things could go in. And we say we could never have predicted a pandemic. Well, apparently Bill Gates did, although I don't know. I don't know the source of that. I don't know the accuracy of that, but I understand he did. It really is about getting in as good a place as you can and just thinking about potential rainy days. And that's not just for cash, but it's about us as business leaders. What happens if something, if we need to take some time out, for instance. Building resilience into that, building resilience into our people, customer relationships, and all of that good stuff. So I think sometimes people are frightened of confronting risk and thinking about things that could happen or things that might go wrong. But actually, if you do it, when you don't need to do it, it's empowering, I think. So I think people wait until there's a problem and then tackle it. But if you do it without all the emotion beforehand, then it feels so much better, I reckon.
I think you're right there. I mean, let's say you're talking about a bit of reactive management, where you react to things as they go along. And I would certainly say that at this moment in time, when we've got second lockdown, so wherever you are in the world, you'll be experiencing similar things to everybody else. This is an ideal time to actually learn from what's gone on now, take those lessons on board, put them into your business actually, and get prepared for the next stage. You know, the year isn't finished. We've still got, you know, a few weeks to go before the end of the year. We've got obviously Brexit, we've got other things going on, but yeah, let's take some lessons here. What I like about the leadership thing here, Joe, is what I've found upon those businesses that have managed to, you know, weather the storm better, that have managed to be more business resilient, is their leadership displays certain qualities. So you're right in a sense of putting it into your team, but that calmness, that not being that rabbit in the headlights when things actually hit the fan, so to speak. And you need to have that calm, you need to have that relaxed pose, that sort of that demeanor to actually cope with crisis at that time. Though those who panic, okay, aren't really very good in terms of leadership roles when you've got this sort of situation to handle.
Yeah, there's a thing around our brain interprets you know, how we respond, and how we respond leads to how we think about stuff, and that cycle that goes round. So if we're thinking, you know, really clearly and really calmly and working through things, taking ourselves out of that emotional state of worry and anxiety, I know that's really hard sometimes. Actually, that sends signals to the brain to calm the body down, and vice versa. So I think that works really well. But from a leadership point of view as well, I believe, you know, if you're struggling, if there is something, if you're really stuck, don't do that thing where you pretend that everything's okay and that everything will be fine, but actually you're worried sick. You know, ask for help. There's a lot. I mean, you've been amazing. Your resilience throughout all of this has been fantastic in terms of how you've shown up at short notice with the latest information, and you've delivered that consistently to help all the business owners that we've got here. You know, with the latest information and support from Treasury, the latest advice. So, but actually, you know, it's do ask for help. I think that'd be one thing for business owners. If there's something you're stuck with, actually, it's a strength to know that you're stuck, and it's a strength to go and find someone who can help you with stuff as well.
Yeah, there's no shame, I think, in actually reaching out. That's very kind of you to say those nice things. There's no shame, I think, in reaching out. And I think it's actually a sign of strength when you do reach out and actually get that help. What you don't want to do is what children do when they don't want to deal with the reality of life, and they do that. And business owners, some of them have a tendency to hide under the duvet, to actually hope it will go away and passage of time will resolve it. I mean, how do you actually cope sort of with stress and anxiety? Because you deal with lots of things going on. Do you have sort of...
And I've been through, you know, the whole lockdown scenario as much as anybody else. So as you know, I sort of show up at events and run stuff and do stuff and lead stuff with groups of people very often. And of course, from March onwards, I haven't been able to do that as I've been doing for years in the room. Now, what I was planning for, anyway, in the background since about 2017, is for those days. You know, I'm 51. I've hopefully, fingers crossed, I've got loads of years in me yet, and I absolutely love what I do. But you know, thinking sort of as I'm getting older, building more of an online, digital sort of approach, and I was doing that anyway, just to, you know, building my resilience as the business leader. But it served me really well once, you know, when I've least expected it, I guess, because the digital side, the online, the virtual delivery has been working really brilliantly, and I've just had to pivot. Because I think sometimes what I've seen is business owners really hanging on to how things are and trying to preserve the status quo. And sometimes we've got to let go of that in order to move on to, you know, the way the world is now, and shaping the offer that we need to shape for now. So I think, you know, just it's almost
it's that emotional attachment, though, isn't it? It's that emotional attachment, especially if you're the founder, especially you're the person who's actually grown the business to whatever stage you've got to. You're so emotionally attached to that, and I think that clouds your judgment. And I'm not talking about, you know, being a robot. I'm not saying don't have any emotion in your decision making, but emotion, as a general rule, shouldn't drive the decision. Emotion may be a factor in the decision making. You know, you've got to look at the evidence, you've got to look at the facts, because it's a bit like, you know, being that musician on the Titanic as it goes down. You're not really going to save yourself or anything else by doing that. So I think our minds, is that old thing about minds coming into play about making us too closely attached to it. And I think some of that comes from, which is us moving into the next aspect of business resilience, is not actually understanding what's going on under the bonnet, not having that highlighting of costs, transparency about what's going on with cash flow, not actually understanding where your money's coming from, what's going on. And that lack of uncertainty, that lack of knowledge, I think for me, is another thing that I found with resilient businesses is about understanding the finances in their business as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's about building a great business model that has resilience in it. So, any over-reliance, whatever's going on in the world, not just 2020, but at any time this applies. So any over-reliance on a small number of customers, any over-reliance on one product or service or one way of doing business, that in itself is building in a lack of resilience, because if there is some reason why you can't do business anymore with that customer, why that product or service is less relevant, for instance, then that takes away the resiliency. So it's about portfolio, I think, and having a number of options that are different but complementary, so that if one thing goes wrong over here, actually you can fall back on that one, maybe keep that one ticking over, but focus that one again when times are right, or maybe drop it if the world moves on. So thinking in that sort of portfolio approach, I think is just something we can all do and be doing to build in resilience how we do business.
100%. I think it's also within that framework of risk there as well. I think an over-reliance on anything, and I suppose those businesses that rely on, as you said, the same customer, what that means is you're assuming there's no such thing as competition. Legislation is not going to change the market that you operate in. You may get supplies from overseas if there's an embargo, it stops you, whatever. You suddenly relying on one individual, one supplier, key supplier, and actually that old cliche about all your eggs in one basket certainly comes to the fore when you've got that over-reliance. And I think you're right for what you said at the very beginning about, yes, it's heightened it. So I think the current pandemic has heightened the need to be more business resilient. But I think what I found, it probably sounds quite harsh, is when we were talking about it earlier on today, that a lot of businesses were exposed when the pandemic hit, just as they were exposed when we had the last recession, and they were fundamentally quite weak. They're fundamentally quite weak in leadership, in too much debt, in terms of high burdens of cost. Portfolio of products are coming to the end of their natural life, and all that happens is they just accelerated their doom much faster. One feels sorry for the people that were, made redundant and all the consequence on suppliers, but it's build it now so you're stronger in the future.
Yeah, I think that's not all businesses that were.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I think the businesses that saw very quickly that they needed to pivot and that word again, the P word, and set up takeaway or delivery services. I've had a number of flyers through the door from local shops, gift shops, that are saying, actually, you can order from us online for Christmas. Here's how you do it. So people are finding other ways of doing it, and I think that's really important, because what the recent months have done is, I said earlier that over-reliance on one way of doing business. Well, over-reliance perhaps has been a reliance on people being able to walk through the door and being physically present. That's the thing. And I think a great activity actually for people to try would be, at some point, maybe in the towards the new year, is to sort of sit down and write a note to yourself about to the person that you were in April, and see what you've learned, and also probably the other way, just sit back and reflect on those lessons learned and what you're going to carry forward into doing business in the future.
Yeah, I think that's great. We're coming towards the end of the year. I know some people may be thinking the year is nearly finished, but it isn't. It's a great time for reflection. It's a great time for planning. It's a great time for thinking also, just to get a little plug in there, being a little bit cheesy here, about a big Business Growth Club, which kicks off on the 25th of January of next year. So folks, if you are listening in and you think, what's this Business Growth Club they're talking about, then drop a comment in here. We'll add you to the mailing list. Details of that are there. The spaces are limited. I think we said 30 people, Joe, haven't we? Said no more than that, so we can give them a good experience. So, think about that one, and I would say, hitch onto the ride. Now, before we, I believe we've got a special guest, Beverly, who's drinking Earl Grey tea at the moment. What would be your final thoughts on the idea of business resilience? We talk about leadership. We talk about, it's not just for crisis time. It's about reflecting. It's about numbers. Is there anything else you think that's really important?
Yeah, I think actually sit down and look at your business from a structural, process, financial point of view. So obviously, wherever you can save cost and not do something that you don't need to do, you need to invest where it's appropriate to invest, and where you think, you're aiming to get a return. Fantastic, keep investing. But don't spend. So keep cash. Look after your cash. Look after your investments. But also think about the contracts that you've got. Think about is somebody's notice period too long? Is it not long enough? Could a really critical person give you a week's notice and sort of walk? So think through all of those sorts of things, and think through yourself as if you're a solopreneur, put things in place that can if there's a time where you need to step back, maybe look after somebody else, or you want a break or whatever it is, where the business can be a bit less reliant on you, where you've got a bit of backup. And there are numerous ways of doing that, through working with others and collaboration, or through going digital or whatever. So yeah, just set yourself up for success and learn, I think, from this year, and make sure that 2021 is a fab year going forward.
I think picking up on that point, Joe, it strikes me what you just described is very much like doing a due diligence checklist, as though you're going to sell the business tomorrow. You have to go through, make sure your house is in order, make sure you're going to know all the legal documentation that's there, understanding what's going on with your staff. So having a checklist, I like this at the best of times here. I think it's a great way to prepare your business, for that next chapter.
Yeah, and something called business continuity, which is about thinking about where are the single or weak points of failure in the business. So are your IT systems robust? Are you looking after your business from a data and a cybersecurity point of view? Those sorts of things are essential to resilience as well. So resilience is actually a really wide topic. But it's about making sure that your business has, and that you have, bounce back ability, and that you can keep going, and push through and come out of any tough times on the other side stronger and hopefully better for it.
100%. And I think Beverly, our next guest, is going to a great example of here. And I want everyone to be aware that you've got to take a lot of positives out of what's been happening here. I've come across lots of examples of businesses that have actually done very well. Yeah. That have accelerated, that have actually moved their business growth much quicker because of the current pandemic. They've had time to reflect, they've had time to review, they've had the time to do lots of different things here. So don't assume that it's complete bleak out there. There are still great opportunities, and people still want to spend money, people still want to buy, people still running businesses. So, and we've got a great example here, Beverly, just like all our previous cohorts here, energetic, inspirational. What she would call herself as a straight shooter. If this wasn't a family show, we might say something else. So I think really it's probably appropriate. Let's bring Beverly on, and she can actually comment for herself. Beverly, very good evening to you.
Hello, Joe and Mahmood. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Hi, how you feeling? Hiya. It's we've been talking about resilience. Have you enjoyed your Earl Grey in the green room, Beverly?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
It's quite fortifying, really.
Perfect.
Your area of expertise, which is bidding, is really important for resilience, isn't it? Because, of course, it's making sure that the pipeline of work is coming in, that you can deliver the work that you win and do it well, and you can do it profitably. So tell us all about you, what you do, and all of that.
All of that. Okay.
All of that.
I've been involved with business development and bid leadership for almost 30 years now. I know I don't look that old, but believe me, I've been doing it for about 30 years. Anyway, so and so what I do is I help companies win work, and I work in multi-sectors, and from large multinationals through to small SMEs. I even do grant applications depending on the organizations. And so it's just really helping and consulting with companies to help them grow their businesses through tendering. What I found with a lot of companies, they don't realize how much public purse is available and ring fenced through tendering. And it's a great way to grow your business, particularly if you want to get on frameworks, because you have that certainty of a budget. You have you're in an exclusive pool to win work against a smaller pool of competitors, and you can build relationships with your customers. And off the back of that period of four years, normally 4 years plus some extension period, you can really plot and plan a growth trajectory based on some certainties you can get through a framework. So I like to promote frameworks with particularly mid-sized SMEs who want to grow. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And the reason for my joining Growth Club is because, like everybody else, we've been challenged by the pandemic and tough economic times. And I started writing a book because I've worked for such a long time. I thought, how am I going to leave this knowledge behind? I want to do something useful. And I'm not getting any younger, but I've got some, I think I've got some good stuff to share. I'd like to share that. So I started writing a book about 2 years ago now, and I kept on thinking, is a book enough? Is a book enough? And there were just so many things in there. I thought this lends itself to a piece of software.
Okay.
And I also thought it's a good way for us to develop a new revenue stream in bid pro quo, because all we've been doing up until then is consultancy, and you're limited in your pricing and your earning capacity by the number of hours you have available. Yes, or the number of associates you can put in.
It's like a hotel room, isn't it, or a bus? You know, you can. The bus comes and goes. There are only so many seats on it. If you don't fill the bus in that window, then
exactly
the room in that time, the revenue's lost. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if the hour's gone, you can't charge for it, and you've not done something productive for it, or you don't have enough bums on seats, you can't sort of triple your income. So there was always a ceiling related to capacity, you know, tied down by capacity. And I just thought there must be another way to do this. And then I thought I'd like to earn some money while I'm sleeping. And that's the best way to earn money. When I wake up, I can have something in my bank account. And I thought online is the way to do this. And I also thought the book would do that. But then I just thought all these elements are such key elements to help, particularly SMEs, not necessarily the big organizations who can buy consultants like you and I. You know, they've got deeper pockets and they can throw money at it. But SMEs need a tight process to help them win more and grow their business. So the intelligence of the book and the software, they kind of go together. So read the book or buy the book and you'll get the software, you'll be inclined to want to use the software. So it's got all the golden nuggets of what Bid Pro Quo stands for, which is our motto has always been be prepared, be strategic, and beat your competition. So under those three motto or statements are the modules of how to win work more successfully. I mean, the whole point for me really is to help people be less confused, less stressed, and more confident with winning the right bids.
So what stage were you at, Beverly, when you came into the Growth Club in your software development?
Yes. Okay. So I was really it's just right at the beginning, really. You know, I met Joe on another program, an innovation program, and I was just starting out with the software in terms of really realizing it. I've been working with a business analyst and a software architect to kind of scope up how this would look, and we'd been working for about 4 years on that. And then I thought, what's the next step? And then innovation, you know, innovation was the motivation. And there was a big spurt during the COVID pandemic to drive innovation and entrepreneurial activity. And so I hopped onto a program, and that's how I met Joe. And from there, I learned about MPVs. And I thought,
Yes.
why am I wanting to do a whole? I've been sort of working so hard thinking I must do all 6
The big
modules
thing, yeah,
relate.
yeah.
Exactly. But I can go to market with a minimum viable product that is an entry point into my product, and that will fund the rest of the development. So that was a key bit of help that was just fantastic. And then a lot after that, and that was in about June, July, May,
Yeah.
June, I think that was then. And then Joe and yourself started working on the Growth Club. I thought, I'm going to jump onto that, because one thing I understood about this was I'm building a piece of software, which is a product, and it will have a full wraparound service. And my first step is to build the MPV and a prototype that goes with that, so that I could secure an investor. Because I knew there's no way I would need an investor or someone with expertise to help me through the build process of the software, and then also the eventual rollout and management thereof. On the technical side, I don't know anything about. I haven't managed I've managed big teams in bids, etc., and in permanent employment, but this is going to be a whole different animal. So I thought I need to learn everything there is to know about running a business with a wraparound service.
Yeah.
And a Growth Club came along, and I must say it has been superbly informative for every aspect of starting a new business. And so that's, whilst I know it says Growth Club, meaning you're operating and you're running and you're moving forward to grow your business, the elements that you guys presented us in the program was essential for me to build with foresight, to build my business plan with foresight and get investor ready. So I'm still busy with that, because my program that I've identified, my innovation program has identified, by the end of this month, middle of December, I'll have the prototype ready, and I'm well on track for that. I'm almost there. And then by December, I am starting to put IP mechanisms in place, trademarks, etc. So I'm not talking to anybody until all of those things are in place. And then I am looking at talking to investors. And so I'm also working on with another program on getting investor ready and all the elements you need to think about. So this program with Growth Club has dovetailed into that. And so I use some of the tools you've given me, and I'm building that picture and the proposition and the proposal and the pitch and all the elements that make up a good business. I mean, for me, I've said this many times in our thing, is I'm scared of the numbers. Everybody's scared of the numbers. It's not one of my greatest strengths, but one of the things you gave me that lovely template of forecasting. I could then understand how I pitch my price and why my numbers will make sense. When I sit in front of somebody, I know now confidently I can show them some of the tables and modules you've presented me, and I can say with quite a lot of confidence, this is why this looks like it does. Because of that.
So, Pedro, can I ask you to put you on the spot here? It's a difficult question. It's a great story, a great explanation. Is there one thing that you thought when you started the Growth Club that actually, so during that whole 10-week program, you put a lot of effort and a lot of energy into it? Is there one thing that stands out for you that actually, this is how I'm thinking about my business differently at the end of the 10 weeks compared to the beginning?
Well, one of the exercises that I thought was really powerful, and I will say that throughout we got really practical templates and backed by the theories, but you always left with a plan, a tool, further thinking. It was practical. I could apply all of those things, and that was fantastic. But the one thing that really stood out for me was to build the I think it was module 9 where we spoke about the elevator pitch and developing our elevator pitch. And one of the things that was quite powerful there was we had kind of breakout groups, and every time we did a little round robin and moved to a different group, it just got tighter and tighter and sharper and sharper and sharper until it's just so refined. And I can talk about it now quite confidently and say, yeah, I know that. And it was a really excellent thing. I didn't think I would get it that sharp. And every person in the group added to refining it. And there was so much experience in the room with all the participants. And I learned by watching them. And I said, oh, that works nicely. So I'm going to add this in. And then as you went around, I just refined it and refined it and refined. It was really so wonderful to do. That was a fabulous exercise. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, because I remember that session, and they're all favourites in different ways, and that was definitely a favourite, because also I could see people's confidence growing in how they were talking about their business, their product, their service, and you worked hard all the way through, Beverly. You know, because through Business Growth Club, you have to do stuff. You know, it's about thinking differently, going on a journey, stepping back from your business, but going through a whole sort of program of structured activity that is designed specifically to move you forward, and you put the work in. And you know, we're both really delighted that you got the results from that, which is fantastic. And you know, bidding. Why should small businesses bid? Because so many of them say, you know, the paperwork, the bureaucracy. You know, you put a lot of work in, and then you don't win. So how would you advise, you know, small to medium sized businesses, the owners listening in, to bid?
One of the key things I promote is or two things. One is build relationships, have a visibility of your pipeline, and build relationships with your customers. People often think tendering lives by itself in its own little bubble. It doesn't. It has a context in the wider context of business development. And we all know business development is built on relationships. People buy from people. So don't miss out on that element. That's the first thing. And your tender, have visibility of what's coming out. There's enough information in the marketplace or on the portals, etc., to tell you when things are coming out. But try to get ahead well in advance. Talk to your customers, and local authorities, government bodies, they welcome, the procurement department welcome good discussions with sincere providers, because it helps them to buy better, it helps them to understand better. And if they have a failed procurement, it's very costly for them, so they don't want that. So if you can start building those relationships early, do that. The other thing I'd say, qualify. There are tools out there to help you to qualify a bid. Don't go for a bid you're going to lose anyway. Go for bids you're going to win. And don't be afraid to say no, just because on the surface it seems like an opportunity you need to go for. Be very clear about why you're going for it, how you're going for it, and calculating your win probability. And you don't only calculate that at the beginning, you'll calculate it at key points in the process to understand, because the customers, as you know, Joe, you know, they'll flood you with information. It's very confusing. They working like headless chickens on their side to try and meet their deadlines, and as a result put you under a lot of pressure. So you either have the resources to manage all that information intelligently, or you can use a piece of software that's coming out with bid management that'll help you to do that.
And I know that having you know, been bid director for all sorts of big sort of transport, infrastructure, other projects in different countries and so on, that is, you know, that is really sound advice. Whatever size of business, it's about going for the right things. I think as well, small to medium sized businesses have said to me, well, the thing is that they want, you know, this policy and that policy, and you've got to have, you know, but you can sort of develop policies really quite quickly, as long as they're meaningful to you and, you know, as a business, and reflect what you do. A policy is not a big deal to create, is it?
Yes, no, it isn't. And in fact, I use a website. I forget its name now. It's in my history, and I just go there. They specialize in just templates. So if you say template for equal opportunities, you'll find a template and you just build on it, you know, as you're quite right in saying that. So the other thing I wanted to say was, you know, about qualifying whether or not you're going to win. I mean, if you go to my LinkedIn, it'll say win more by doing less. And that's exactly what I mean. only go for the bids that you are going to win, or your probability of winning is higher, because the investment to run a bid is very expensive. While sometimes you're not putting out £1,000 or £2 million or whatever, you are, if you calculate the time spent on it and all the resources that's gone into it, it's a phenomenal cost. And that's one of the things the bid management software will do, is help you measure those costs, your win rates, etc. So you're constantly on top of whether or not this is a worthwhile process for you. And you can dip out at any time, because it becomes cost prohibitive.
I think
So
it's
you're being more focused in you're being more focused in what you're bidding for. Would there be any sort of businesses that you would say that this tendering process isn't suitable for, Bev? Like,
I don't think so. I mean, the companies need to baseline their ability to deliver the service and meet the barriers to entry that the customer puts in place. I think also what SMEs or people don't understand is that bids are designed, or the way bids come out and what you need to do for them to win them, they're designed to eliminate you from the process. They're designed not to include you. So it's a very different mindset when you sit doing a bid. You kind of think, oh, we're going to win this, with your positive hat on. But if you just step back and say, actually, this is all designed to weed me out, but how do I stay in the race? And what are all those elements that make it work for me? So a good audit initially to say, okay, go and look at bids that have gone out before, but you can go to Tenders Electronic Daily, and there are other services like that. You can look at bids what's gone before, and you can say, okay, if I looked at awarded bids in the last 3 years, and I do a bit of analysis on that, what could I have gone for, what should I have gone for, what would have worked, what wouldn't have worked, etc. And that will give you a good assessment of, is there a market for you in bidding? Is there an opportunity, real or imagined? Do you see what I'm saying? Because there won't be an opportunity there's always opportunity, and opportunities in local authorities and government bodies, and also major organizations who do main contracts like HS2, Hinkley Point C, sorry, I couldn't get that out, getting it confused with HS2.
Too much tea.
Those bigger programs, they run their own procurement programs for SMEs, and they also then have to jump through hoops. So it's not just local authorities or government bodies, it's bigger organizations who project managing or leading on big projects like HS2 or Hinkley Point C, or Highway England or something like that.
I think as well, Beverly, that from what I've seen, because I've evaluated bids on the other side, as I know you have as well, is sometimes people are so focused on the technical prowess of their solution. There might be an engineering solution, for instance, but actually the people evaluating may or may not be engineers. So you've got to write for the engineers and write for everybody else as well, and make sure things really stack up. And I think I see so many businesses that aren't really clear on that elevator pitch, their unique selling proposition, their differentiator. They can't express it. So what you get is a very sort of technical thing that ticks boxes, but it doesn't go, I call them customer hot buttons. You press a button and the customer goes, wow, that sounds great. It's about putting those wow moments into the bid, as well as providing a great technical and compliance solution, because that's important too. So,
Also, Joe, to take that one step further, is this the sales document. The customer is buying. And one of the exercises you guys did with us as well, which was the whole feature, benefit, value, which was the precursor to the pitch, elevator pitch. And I did that exercise in quite a lot of detail before we ran the session. And it was really an excellent eye opener, because you would do that when you're doing a bid, isn't it? So these are the features of our solution. These are the benefits, but this is the value, Mr. Customer, and it's been priced for like this. So you can see that picture, isn't it? So people forget this is you're sending a message and working with a client for them to buy things. It's not just, this is what we can do. It's the weakest sales speech you could possibly do, say, Mr. Client, this is what we do, and now are you going to buy us? Whereas if you said it, this is what we do, what are your issues and problems? We understand it like this. What we do can match you like this. These are the benefits of doing it like this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that value proposition was invaluable, actually.
It's much what they say, isn't it? About the customers, generally speaking, don't really care about you. They care what you're going to do for them.
Exactly. And as Joe quite rightly points out, we're so focused on our solution is great. We're going to build a bridge, you know, a cantilever bridge, and that's going to be solving your problem. But the customer might want a tunnel.
Or they might want a pink or orange cantilever, you know, or there might be a little feature. But I mean, sometimes in some of the big, I mean, I'm talking, you know, in the hundreds of millions of bids. The value over the life of the contract that I've been involved with and run. Sometimes it's those small moments of thoughtfulness that really elevates the bid and stick in the evaluator's minds. As long as everything else, you need everything else to be there as well. And what about businesses that find, you know, that go, well, you know, there's so much competition out there, or I'm not as good as them, or they'll get it and I won't. You know, it's important to be mindful of competition, isn't it? But not be put off by it, and also not to put your competition down when you're bidding. Do you agree with that?
Oh yes, I never advocate. I mean, it's a poor show, isn't it? When you're slagging off the competition, it really just means you're not very confident. However, you know, as a company, you've got something of value to bring, and to understand your value, and as you say, to put it down on the paper, so that the client sits up and says, this person really understands me. And that's why in my Be Prepared module, it is, I advocate certain research. And a lot of companies miss that step. You know, there is so much in the public domain about companies, projects, tenders, the competition, the customer. And that's where you start finding your hot buttons and start building your win themes, because it's based on that information. And so you can build something really powerful that meets your customers' requirements. Sometimes some customers don't know what they want. You know, a lot of the time, local authorities or government organizations, they say, oh, yes, let's do this. But they actually don't know what they want sometimes. And they're looking towards the experts, who are my customers, to advise them, to give them. And if you do that honestly and sincerely, it'll come out, you know, that this is probably a better solution than the customer probably started off with, or you give them food for thought, which is the added value, you know.
So in terms of your business development, Joe, that's Beverly, that's a great way of putting it. Where are you now in terms of your sort of business journey, if I can use that phrase? So what's the next stages for you?
Okay, so at the moment, as I say, we're coming to just completing our prototype, and I'm really excited. And the other thing, you know, I got from Joe and you was the concept of early adopters. And the other concept was early marketing, just marketing awareness and education, you know. So I thought, oh, those are things I hadn't thought about, you know. And so throughout the growth program, I've identified the market sectors I want to have an early adopter in, because it's sector agnostic, the product, and so it can be applied to any sector, because the process is the same that I'm advocating. And I'm sure there will be some nuances in some organizations, but there will be some flexibility in the product to adapt. So prototype, which is due now mid-December, and I'm well on track for that. Business plan and investor readiness program end of December, and I'm on track for that. So once that's happened, January, February, I'm talking to investors and gearing up for delivery of the product. In other words, the build phase. And then by about March, June, I'm talking to my early adopters to start using my product. And then from there, we'll refine and build and build and build. And then, I'm hoping by this time next year, we've got a full-blown product in the marketplace, supported by the book with all the elements and strategies included.
Sounds exciting.
While you're doing that, are you still helping companies with their bids and tenders in Bid Pro? You and the team in Bid Pro Quo, are you still?
That's right. I've been helping some security services at the moment. They recognize they've got one or two. They're working on a few projects with rail and infrastructure, and they just realized because of COVID, they need to build more resilience in their business. Interestingly, it ties in with the theme.
That sounds like a thing.
Yes, and so they're now recognizing that this part of their business is underdeveloped, and they can have more certainty of their growth if they go for frameworks and get. So I'm helping them build internal capability, setting up some systems for them, some processes. So eventually, I'll be stepping away, and they can run it all themselves. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Fantastic. So, sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you, Mahmood, earlier.
No, not at all.
Yeah, just so that anyone watching or listening can contact you, Beverly, at bidproquo.co.uk, and you can help them if they've got some significant bids and tenders that they want to have a go at, or even just get started if they've not done it before.
So I'll take it we can have you back on the broadcast next year when your product is launched.
Oh, most definitely. Do you know what I just realized, Joe? Many, many years ago, I did a tender for Bam Nuttall to Northumbria Water. And I remember looking on the website thinking, oh, I'm really impressed with Northumbria Water. They've got a woman at the head of the helm. And you know what? I just learned the other day that was you. We did win that bid.
No, well, hang on. So at Northumbrian Water, the CEO is Heidi Mottram. So, but I have done. I work a lot for Northumbrian Water, and I
thought that was
the retail business. But is it Northern Rail? So. Or East Coast that I used to lead.
Yeah. I just know that there was one opportunity I was doing, and I definitely remember your name, and you were right at the top. And I thought, isn't that amazing? Yeah. Isn't that serendipitous?
Something I'm rubbing shoulders with tender royalty here.
I set up. I did all the setup. Northumbrian Water won't mind me saying this. I did the setup for their retail business, which is now called Wave and run by Lucy, but a great business. But I did all the stuff to really set up the retail business and get that ready. So that's why I was on that page. I think I know the page. I haven't thought about it in months, but I think years actually. But I think I know the page you've got in mind. Yeah.
You should be
anyway. Sorry, Mahmood.
I don't know if Joe's got a mention in your book, perchance.
Oh, no, definitely.
Well, I will be very interested to see the book, because I'm always working with bid teams, as you know, and bidding for clients and evaluating stuff. And I think we need a good resource that helps people show what they can do and create possibilities. So it's been brilliant talking to you, and I can't wait to see the book, and I definitely can't wait to see the software.
Looking forward to it. So, Beverly, again, thanks very much for giving up some time tonight to come and speak to us.
Thank you.
I found out a bit more about your tender business, so I had a great idea about what a dynamic individual you were. So, if somebody's thinking about the Growth Club, what would your thoughts be to them? What one tip, advice would you give them?
Well, I think at any stage, just come and learn. Avail yourself to learn about the fundamentals of what helps your company to grow. from looking at your customers to how you manage yourself as a leader, to how you position your business, to how you visualize your creativity and to grow your business and to pivot. It's the big 2020 word in the pandemic is to pivot, and then also the other thing is, more than anything else, the experience in the room is phenomenal. And you just learn so much from everybody. And we're all in this together. That's the other thing, which was really nice. We're in it together. You're not alone. Everybody's got same or similar challenges, and we help each other. And I thought that was really fantastic.
Well, brilliant. Beverly, keep in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming across tonight.
And you're fantastic too, Beverly. So thank
100%. 100%. So we're going to put you back to the green room now, Beverly. Obviously,
Thank
if
you.
you want to add something to your tea, we can't stop you. But I know you've got some more work to do. So wine comes later, I believe.
Yeah, well, I think we'll give wine a miss today. I've got too much to do.
Fair enough. Beverly, listen, good evening. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Oh, what a great guest. Just like all our people.
Yeah, she's awesome. Sorry, I don't mean to bump into you, Mahmood. I think it's a timing thing tonight. I don't know.
This is, as I said, it's tender royalty on the show tonight. So, I'm nowhere in the same league as you and Beverly in terms of tenders. I've got lots of clients who've gone for them, think they're a waste of time because they require lots of energy, lots of time. They don't really go for them properly. They think it's always the big boys that get them, and there's like a little mafia that goes to that. So I think Beverly's given some hope out to those businesses out there that may want to go down that route. And I like the idea of having certainty to your income streams and stability, which is a great thing. So so I thought it was a great guest. All our previous guests. I believe next week's show, Joe, we've got another wonderful guest coming on, and it's quite appropriate because we're going to be talking about getting started with your marketing for growth. And the guest we've got coming on next week is May King. Yeah. We'll announce some details later on. So what do you think about next week's guest, and what do you think about the guests we've had on this series so far?
I love them all, and it's been an absolute delight to work with every single one of them. I'm really grateful to them, as I know you are, for giving up the time to be with us. And May King is also making sound. She's the FOMO creator, and she's got such an energy, such a vibe, a deep understanding of how social media works and what it can do for you and your business. And I always learn so much from her every time I hear her speak. So it's going to be a good one, that one.
Absolutely. So what's your business resilience? We've talked about the practical stuff. It's not just mindset. We've talked about it's about having flexibility in your cost structure. It's about flexibility in your thinking, having that good leadership style, not getting like a rabbit in the headlights, business processes. What would be the one big takeaway that you'd want to share with people when they think about business resilience?
I actually liked Beverly's expression when she said, be prepared. And be prepared in times where you don't need to be prepared. So it's like, it's like relationships. Relationships are an investment. That it's important to support people all the time, not just when you need somebody's support back. And business is the same. Just be prepared, put things in place, and therefore it'll just really release a lot of the stress and anxiety when times do get tough, because that's life, isn't it? It's part of business.
Absolutely. And I think you're right there. I think in the sense that if you get to grips with the reality of what's going on in your business, if you take control of it, you take command of it, you get to grip with your numbers, it's amazing how cathartic and how much of an anxiety relieving process that can be here. So if you want to reduce the anxiety, if you want to reduce the uncertainty, if you want to reduce all your sleepless nights here, grab your business, take it seriously, get to grip with the numbers, be resilient and plan.
And we can help with that, and we do help with that. And I know that through everything that was going on this year, our Business Growth Club members have really benefited from having some structure, sense of direction, building forward in spite of what's going on, and actually making the most of the opportunities created. So come and join us.
Absolutely. So look, we want you to join. There's details in there. We'll add them later on. But for that, have a great week, everybody. We'll look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday.
See you then. Bye.
See you then. Bye.